Okay. That's a meme. About 6 months too late, but that's a meme. Episode 3. I heard all the complaints. I've changed the lighting. I think this is it. Okay, are you ready? I'm ready. Let's get ready. It's episode 3. It's time to figure out what the fuck is going on with Robbie. And the others. There's other characters, for sure. But try telling the writers that. Ladies. Okay, obviously there's Dr. Rabinovich himself. Shit. But I also wanted to talk a bit about Langdon again, Dr. McKay, and Joy. Okay, so with Robbie, a quick reminder, he is Jewish. In the first season, we don't assume he's very religious because he only falls back to prayer when his day has reached its lowest, but we can assume it was still a very big part of his life because he still carries the necklace and he still knows the scripture. Also, he has a motorbike and he's been having a rough few months. With Langdon, we know he has an amount of kids, and he's still having a spat with Robbie. Okay, welcome to the video. She had a messy breakup and has a son called Harrison. Last season she had an ankle monitor, but that's long gone now. She's also been sober for a decade. The most important thing to know about her right now is that she's single. And Joy is a newcomer this season. She's potentially my favourite of the new ones. Not that the selection is very great. Not talking about Emma. I love Emma. I'm talking about Ogilvy. We don't know a whole ton about her, apart from the fact she's quite withdrawn and doesn't seem to want to be here. But she's not cold. We know that she cares about the patients. It's just covered in like a thin layer of sarcasm and the best poker face in the country. The laptop's down here now because I can't be fucked turning my head. With Langdon, there's nothing crazy going on, but we did see him in action at triage, and honestly, he's doing great. What I really like about these writers is that they write everyone like they're fucking adults. Langdon isn't complaining about being stuck in triage or doing a lazy job because he doesn't want to be there. He's doing his job because he is a good doctor. He's the good doctor.
Holy shit, it's Nanny McPhee.
Isn't Charlie in the chocolate factory. We also see him dad bonding with Donnie and a patient who brought his son in. McKay's been having a relatively chill shift so far, but I wanted to focus on her because she's got this interesting through line of a romance. Now in episode 1, McKay confessed to Mohan that it had been a while and that she needed to get laid, to Mohan's disgust. But this does make the events of this episode a little more interesting. McKay had said specifically that she was more into the idea of a fling or a one night stand with no feelings involved, but in this episode we see her get flirted at by not one, but 2 patients. Back to back. And she had a patient's ex-wife come in to check on him, as well as kind of question their breakup. McKay seems pretty heartwarmed by the divorced couple reconnecting, and she wasn't completely repulsed by the flirting from the patients. For me, this seems like we're maybe setting up McKay to have some sort of romance. Not with her ex. Her ex can get in a hole and die. But with someone, maybe. I might reshuffle this at some point. Moving on to Joy. We still don't know a whole ton about her, but she has been separated from Ogilvy, which is fantastic. Since they got separated, she's been opening up a little more, asking questions, and getting way more involved than she had previously. This episode just shows that Joy is more than you think when you separate her from that fucking coconut tree. I'd like to specify the actor's fine. I've seen interviews, he seems like a lovely guy, but the aura of Ogilvy just makes him ugly. Okay, going back to Robbie. This episode really gives him 2 major events. That's 3. First, there's a vehicle collision which involves a motorcyclist who arrives basically dead. When this is confirmed, Robbie immediately moves on to the other victims. Joy points out that they need to do the moment of reflection, but Robbie says that they'll do it later. Guess what, gang? They don't do it later. Then later in this episode, Robbie helps out this old lady with a burn, and she immediately recognizes his last name as being Jewish. Turns out she's Jewish, and they start talking about, like, their religious practices, I guess. Except that Robbie confirms that he doesn't really practice anymore, mostly just on the holidays. This isn't a surprise, we kind of got this from his talk with Whitaker in season 1, but it's a lovely moment to see him share this old lifestyle with someone who still lives it. Okay, going on to some stuff that hasn't really been addressed by the show, but we still see it. We see Langdon and Donnie talking about being dads, but something interesting that we don't see Langdon wearing is his bracelet that his kid made for him. One or the only one. Now, this could have a completely normal answer. It got lost or broken or something like that.
Boring! juggling.
But the fact that no one in the show has pointed out that he's missing it feels like they're trying to not draw attention to it, which is immediately making me pay attention to it. Maybe it hints at him not being as close with his kids as he once was. Like, if I was gonna write a character who's gonna have a costume change that I didn't want to give the wrong impression, I would create a little excuse to stop the audience from jumping to conclusions. But this is giving me full permission to jump. And jump I shall. His kids hate him now. But before we go more into that, I want to again point something out with Dr. Robbie. During this episode, we have that motorbike crash, but there's also another couple involved in the collision. A lovely young couple who are both pretty critically injured, but there's this lovely moment where the wife runs over to the husband and gives him a bunch of hugs and kisses because she's learned that he's not going to be paralyzed. Then the shot focuses on Robbie in the background and lingers for a minute. Now, if I'm being honest, I don't think I can decipher the look on his face, and the moment really feels like it comes out of nowhere. But the emotion is important enough that we stay on there for a good few seconds, way longer than I would normally think for a reaction shot. My best guess at what actually happened is that Robbie blue screened at the thought of two people caring about each other's lives so much. He can't relate. This feels like a joke, but I'm being serious. Add in the fact that this couple is in the ER because of a motorcyclist who wasn't wearing a helmet. I think that this is Robbie having a moment of self-reflection about this journey he's about to embark on. I might be looking into things way too much here, but fuck you, that's why I'm on camera. Okay, picking back up where we left off. Langdon. Him not having this bracelet feels like a deliberate decision, if not by the writers, then by the costuming department. But it doesn't necessarily mean what I think it means. I really feel like the creators are fucked up enough to just put this in here to throw us off the scent. On paper, getting rid of the bracelet is indicative of home life troubles.
Oh my god.
But also, this is the show of that real shit. If someone you know is missing their bracelet, it's more indicative of a rushed morning. I'm gonna say that missing bracelets and wedding rings are less likely to be clues that will solve the case, and more like supportive evidence in a courtroom. With Joy, I think it's quite simple what the writers were wanting us to believe about her in the first few episodes. She's distant, cold, and doesn't seem to care. At least about the job. But now, finally free of Ogilvy's insistence to prove himself the smartest in the room, we see her engage a little bit more. What's interesting to me is that she's not standing out with this change. There's no swelling music or cut to Robbie as we see her putting in this little bit of effort. She's doing what is expected of her, which makes the previous episodes so annoying. What Ogilvy was doing wasn't just overshadowing any skills or ambitions she had. He was literally stopping her from doing her job. It's the fact that Joy isn't competing with Ogilvy, but Ogilvy is competing with Joy. And as much as this episode changes our perspective on Joy, it mostly paints Ogilvy in a very malicious light. As it should. Moving back to McKay. Like, I'm pretty sure most of the ladies on this show, she's kind of thriving. There's the obvious fact that with multiple people flirting with her, she's probably getting a big boost to her confidence. But there's also the fact that she seems way more independent with her work. Obviously, she's still learning, and I'm pretty sure she's not a full-time doctor yet. I'll Google that and edit that in later. But she's doing more leading this time, doing her own procedures, and only going to Robbie when the patient is particularly difficult. This episode has also changed how I feel about Robbie. In episodes 1 and 2, I really thought it was definite that he was gonna get into some sort of motorcycle accident at the end of his shift. All signs pointed that way. But now, the more it gets brought up, I'm starting to think that maybe this will be more about the journey than the destination. A motorcycle crash. With his motorcycle death and his reconnection with Judaism and the lovely couple who love each other so fucking much, I think there's going to be some sort of fight in Robbie's head. I'm not saying that he might not go on sabbatical, he definitely should do that. I think the question at the end of the season is going to be, will Robbie wear a helmet or not? That's going to be the big thing. With Langdon, his whole vibe right now seems secretive, even from the audience. Obviously, there's bigger problems in this hospital than his personal life, and he's only been working here for 3 hours, so I'm not saying that he's actively hiding things from his co-workers. It almost feels like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop with him. I'm sure we'll find out more about how he's doing, but I don't think he's going to give up that information too willingly. Even if it's good news, I don't think the question, how's your home life going, is going to fit too well in his plan to get everything back to normal. Finally, for Joy, now that she's writing a little bit more solo, I'm really hoping that we see more of her actual personality. I'm still expecting her to be hilariously dry and sarcastic, but letting her have a moment or two to shine would also be great. I would also love for her to win one over on Ogilvy. Ooh, I hate that man. Okay, before we finish up, it's time for everyone's favorite part of the video. Is that too much? Okay, starting off with a correction. Someone in this episode mentioned that it's actually Saturday, which makes this year 2026, not 2025. This also makes Javadi's birthday the 7th, not the 8th. There have also been many hints that the weather is turning warmer as the day goes on. This is quite interesting to me because it feels like this should culminate in the final episode, but realistically this conflict will end around episode 11 or 12 when it starts to get darker, but then the fireworks come out, so that's a whole new ballgame. This just feels like a very fun and clever way to create tension that's going to last the whole season. It's getting hot in here. Crucially, the big thing of this episode is that this other hospital has been closed down, which means more patients. What does it mean? Which means a bunch more patients, higher tension, and a new betting board.
Fuck yeah!
Mel seems to be doing a bit better this episode. I'm hoping that it was that moment with Langdon, plus keeping herself busy just means that she's getting back on the horse a little bit. Is that a phrase? I don't fucking know. Good news, the Javadi versus Ogilvy rivalry is still going strong. I don't give a shit what Robbie says. Teamwork does not make the dream work. Interesting conflicts do. Jessie, my personal favourite nurse, knows how to juggle. Matching. Ha! I'm gonna have to show you that I can juggle now. Give me a second. Years of training. Now just loop that. I can do better. That's not my fault. They got in the way. Whoa! Trick shot. Okay, back to the show. Robbie has come to his senses and is on Team Mohan. And, Ogilvy doesn't know what ITP is. What a fucking idiot. Overall, it feels like this season has been building up the tension in a much more physical way than season 1 did, where the first season had a lot of internal tension with Robbie working the worst day he could have possibly chosen. This season also has a bunch of outside forces coming together to create a scenario where anything could happen. Final note, as far as I could see, there were no Michael moments in this episode. Hard to believe, I know. Please, if you know any, fucking tell me, cause I can't believe it, but he gets a pass from me for this episode. I'm very glad that I got to talk about Joy and McKay. They don't have a whole ton to do, which is a bit of a shame, but I am excited to see where they go. The next episode will be about episode 4 of the PItt, which comes out next Thursday, so keep an eye out for that one. I also post a bunch of related stuff on TikTok and Instagram and Serialized, where I post reviews. So if you feel like I missed out on something, or you want to chat about something, go there. Okay, thanks for watching, gang. I'll see you in a couple of days. Bye.